introduce my Uncle Milt Kundert from Trumbull, Connecticut. And you're going to be 100 years old on Wednesday, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, are you from Trumbull originally?
No, Bridgeport.
Okay. And so, I mean, not many people reach the age that you have, and you're still sharp as a tack. You want to share any of your most memorable experiences with us?
Yeah, sure.
Go ahead.
Oh, well, my experience is one of them was years back when I was 12 years old. The buddies I hung around with in the neighborhood and went to school with, their parents were a lot younger than my mother and father by 15, 20 years. So they could afford going out to a boys' camp or a scout camp. But then my mother had a friend that lived up in Newtown, Connecticut, and she had a farm of about 30 acres. So my mother asked Mrs. Ornell if she would take me in as for the summer or just for a vacation. And she said, sure, we'd be glad to have them. So I went up there, well, not only 1 year, I think I went from about 16 till I was about 18, because then I had to go to work. My father took sick. So anyway, I went up to the farm and I worked there all summer long, milking the cows, taking care of the chickens, because these people were originally from Brooklyn, New York, and they used to clean offices at night after everybody left from the day work. Well, then somebody tipped them off about a farm for sale up in Newtown. So they purchased it, Mr. and Mrs. Ornell and Mrs. Herglin. So then my mother got acquainted with them somehow because they were Swedish and my mother was Swedish. So anyway, I start going up to the farm, and I couldn't wait for school to get out in June so I could pack up my clothes and take off for the summer. But I worked up there, and they had no children, so I used to feed the chickens and clean the chicken houses, and I used to get up. I learned there to milk the cows. So then Mr. Ornell used to get up around 6 in the morning and go down in the kitchen, and then outside on a stake, there was a milk pail. They used to wash it at night after milking, and then they would put it outside on this big wooden stake with a cloth tied on top of it and turn it upside down and let it drip all night so nothing could get in it. A big galvanized pail. I think it held about 18 quarts.
Okay.
Then I take the pail, and after I got going with Mr. Ornell about a week or two, then I started to get up a little early in the morning, and I figured I'd do a little more for him by going down milking the 3 or 4 cows before he even got up. So I used to go out there about 5:30 in the morning, and the cows were funny. It was funny, they used to be way out in the pasture, like a good 3 or 4 or 5 blocks, city walking blocks. But then they knew when to start eating and coming in towards the barn. And it was like clockwork. They would come in and be in the little corral in front of the gate. By probably in a half hour from start eating out in the outskirts and then working their way in. It was their own system. Anyway, then I'd open the gate and let them all in, and there were 3 of them that milked. One was always capping. Well, anyway, when they came in, they put in what stall to go in, and then you just throw the bar over and it would click and hold their heads in there. So that's where they would stand while they were milked.
Yeah.
So I would come down, I would feed the horse first and give him his oats. And then I'd start milking. I had the milk pail. So then you had another little pail there with water in it and a cloth, and you used to wash the bags off before you started milking. Anyway, I'd milk one cow. I'd milk two cows. I'd milk three. Sometimes there were four, but sometimes there were three because one was calving. And you didn't bother milking them that much when you were calving. Anyway, next thing I know, I had them all milked.
Huh.
So Mr. Ornell would come in upstairs. I'd hear him with his boots on. He had his boots about came to the knees. And I'd hear him tramping on the floor. And I'd holler, Mr. Ornell, you don't have to come down. They're all milked.
Ha
He says, what did, then he starts stuttering. He used to have a stutter, like, when he got excited.
Yeah.
And he would say, what'd you do that for, Milton? He says, why didn't you wait for me to get up? I says, don't worry about it. So I did as much as I could for him. And then when it got to be mowing, I couldn't wait to have him let me use the mowing machine with the horse.
Yeah.
And finally he did. We saddled up the horse, and then we'd hook him up to the mower and take it wherever we were going to cut the hay that day. And I learned it, pretty rapidly. I had a good general idea of how it worked. And so I'd mow the hay for him. And then, of course, was the hay laid in the field and to dry, it would take, according to the weather, you would pray you would have no rain while it was drying.
Yeah.
And then, after a day it laid there, you'd go up the next day, and then you had to turn it over with a pitchfork, so every row you cut. So then you'd wait another day or two, and as long as it was sunny out, then you'd push it in, pull it into a pile. And he didn't have a big hay rake that a horse could pull, so we had to rake by hand.
Wow.
And then next thing you know, we had it in big piles. Another next day would be hook up the hay wagon with he had a big wooden rack that he used to put on this big wagon.
Yeah.
And that would make it wider and a little bit longer, so you could put a good mound on there. And then we'd load it up, and there was a certain way of building those piles. You would put a row on the outside all the way around, and then you would start dumping it inside until the inside caught up with the outside edge. Then you would extend it out to the edge again. And then that's the way you went one layer to another till you got the big mound up in the air.
So did you bale the hay, or did you put it in those big circles?
Pardon?
Did you bale the hay, or did you put it in those big...
No, we just took it down in a big load.
Oh, I see.
Right on the wagon with the rack.
Okay.
See, that extended the size of the rack, made the wagon bigger.
Okay.
And you take it down the dirt road. We had to go around this one sharp bend on the dirt road, and you had to watch out. You'd be very careful. It was quite rocky in there, and you had to go very slow with the horse, and then finally you got down where it leveled off, and it was all right. Then we'd cut into the driveway, and it went in along the porch of the house and down around the back by the, I don't remember what they call that darn thing, something like a corn crib.
Okay.
Anyway, we went around that, down into the barn, and you always head in with the horse because the barn was deep enough. So you drive right in, and then he'd get up on the load with me. We both pitched the load off into the barn on wherever side he wanted, on the right side or the left side.
Yeah.
And then as you built the hay up through this haying season, which took like a couple of months at least.
Yeah.
If you built it up, as you built it up, you had this here salt, kind of rough salt, and you would take it and just scatter it out with your hand over the hay, every so many layers.
So what did that do?
Well, it had something to preserve it some way.
Okay.
I mean, and probably make it taste better for the cows.
Uh-huh.
I'm not really sure on that. So that's the story on hay.
Okay, so that was one of your more memorable experiences.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then, of course, there was always, there was always the garden.
Right.
But the women did most of the taking care of the vegetable garden, really. We took care of like the bean crop and the corn crop and so forth. You had to cultivate in between as the corn stalk got so high, about 3 feet. Then you'd hook the horse up and you'd put what they call a cultivator.
Uh-huh.
And you had to walk through each row, down, and cultivate with this big half-sliding blade and it would turn up the dirt the way you wanted it against the base of the corn. Then you'd come back up the other aisle, turn the horse around, and come back up the other way until you got the whole field done. And then the haying was quite a job, Everybody pitched in with the haying because when you pile that up after it got dried up and you put it in piles,
Yeah.
you have to go work pile to pile to pick it up and throw it on there was a big wooden rack that you would put on a regular sized wagon, and it would extend it maybe another 3 feet on each side. And then you take it down to the barn and unload it, like I said before. But it was good work. It was hard work, but
Sure.
It was good work. You were out in the sun a lot.
Now, you did that from what age to what age?
Pardon?
You started at what age? You started working on the farm at what age? You started working on the farm at what age? How old were you?
I was about 16.
Okay, and you did that for how many years?
Up till I was about 19.
Okay, and then you worked for the post office for 33 years.
Then I went to work in the GE.
Okay.
I worked in the General Electric till about 1920. No, way after that. What was I then? I don't remember. I was 16.
Okay.
I was born in 1919.
Yeah.
So 29, I was 10. So about 36, 37, I went to work when I was 16 in the General Electric.
Okay.
My father got ill, and in fact, they were laying off from the company he would work for, what was it? The wire company. I can't think of it now.
That's okay. I forget a lot of things too.
But but anyway, then though I worked there for the GE. I worked about 5-6 years, I guess, and then I got a job in the post office. So I worked there for 34 years.
Now you were a mail carrier, right?
No, I was in a vehicle. We were on what they called special delivery mail.
Oh, right.
And we made 2 trips a day as the mail came in. If it came in like between 9 and 12, that went out. We would get our first trip at 8:30 in the morning, go out with the mail we had, came in overnight. And then when we got back at noontime, you'd break a half hour for lunch. Then we'd go out at 1 o'clock and work till 3 and deliver what we could in that 2 hours.
Yeah.
And if we couldn't deliver it then, we left it then they had a night trick come in and worked from 3:30 till 11. And they delivered special delivery mail up till 11 o'clock at night.
Oh, wow. Did you ever have any encounters with dogs while you were doing that?
Oh, God, I was bit about 4 times.
Wow.
Yeah, and one was pretty good. I had to have stitches at St. Vincent's Hospital.
Uh-huh.
I was way up in the north end and in trouble, in fact, when I got bit.
Yeah.
And a woman had to come out and give me a big towel and wipe my leg off or the blood from it.
Yeah. Huh.
And then she bandaged it up the best she could, and I got in the wagon and I had to drive down to St. Vincent's Hospital.
Yeah.
So, but all in all, the job was good. I liked it. We were outdoors.
Yep.
And it was a good job.
Yeah. Wow.
So.
Well, Milt, you're one of my most favorite people in the whole world. And
thank you.
I mean, you're such a good-hearted guy, and we always had great sing-alongs at your house,
I
right?
guess so.
Yeah, and wow. So I'm glad I was able to make it to Connecticut for this very special occasion. You're one of the good ones.
Well, I try to be.
Yeah, no, you're an extraordinary human being, and I'm honored and privileged that you're my uncle.